Chapter 1 of Pearl Maiden. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pearl Maiden, by Henry Rider Haggard. Chapter 1, The Prison at Caesarea. It was but 2 hours after midnight, yet many were wakeful in Caesarea on the Syrian coast. Herod Agrippa, king of all Palestine, by grace of the Romans, now at the very apex of his power, celebrated a festival in honor of the Emperor Claudius, to which had flocked all the mightiest in the land and tens of thousands of the people. The city was full of them, their camps were set upon the sea beach and for miles around. There was no room at the inns or in the private houses, where guests slept upon the roofs, the couches, the floors, and in the gardens. The great town hummed like a hive of bees disturbed after sunset, and though the louder sounds of revelling had died away, parties of feasters, many of them still crowned with fading roses, passed along the streets shouting and singing to their lodgings. As they went, they discussed, those of them who were sufficiently sober, the incidents of the day's games in the great circus, and offered or accepted odds upon the more exciting events of the morrow. The captives in the prison that was set upon a little hill, a frowning building of brown stone, divided into courts and surrounded by a high wall and a ditch, could hear the workmen at their labours in the amphitheatre below. These sounds interested them, since many of those who listened were doomed to take a leading part in the spectacle of this new day. In the outer court, for instance, were 100 men called malefactors, for the most part Jews convicted of various political offences. These were to fight against twice their number of savage Arabs of the desert taken in a frontier raid, people whom today we should know as Bedouins, mounted and armed with swords and lances, but wearing no mail. The malefactor Jews, by way of compensation, were to be protected with heavy armour and ample shields. Their combat was to last for 20 minutes by the sand-glass, when, unless they had shown cowardice, those who were left alive of either party were to receive their freedom. Indeed, by a kindly decree the King Agrippa, a man who did not seek unnecessary bloodshed, contrary to custom, even the wounded were to be spared, that is, if any would undertake the care of them. Under these circumstances, since life is sweet, all had determined to fight their best. In another division of the great hall was collected a very different company. There were not more than 50 or 60 of these, so the wide arches of the surrounding cloisters gave them sufficient shelter and even privacy. With the exception of 8 or 10 men, all of them old, or well on in middle age, since the younger and more vigorous males had been carefully drafted to serve as gladiators, this little band was made of women and a few children. They belonged to the new sect called Christians, the followers of one Jesus, who, according to report, was crucified as a troublesome person by the governor, Pontius Pilate, a Roman official, who in due course had been banished to Gaul, where he was said to have committed suicide. In his day Pilate was unpopular in Judæa, for he had taken the treasures of the temple at Jerusalem to build waterworks, causing a tumult in which many were killed. Now he was almost forgotten, but very strangely, the fame of this crucified demagogue, Jesus, seemed to grow, since there were many who made a kind of god of him, preaching doctrines in his name that were contrary to the law and offensive to every sect of the Jews. Pharisees, Sadducees, Zealots, Levites, priests, all called out against them. All besought Agrippa that he should be rid of them, these apostates who profaned the land and proclaimed in the ears of a nation awaiting its Messiah, that heaven-born king who should break the Roman yoke and make Jerusalem the capital of the world, that this Messiah had come already in the guise of an itinerant preacher, and perished with other malefactors by the death of shame. Wearied with their importunities, the king listened. Like the cultivated Romans with whom he associated, Agrippa had no real religion. At Jerusalem he embellished the temple and made
Sample complete. Ready to continue?